What's going down, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Commander Ad Populum. Commander for the people, by the people, for the people. My name is Ryan. This is episode 17. Got a couple things to cover today, but before we do, couple business items. Of course, big thanks to FusionGamingOnline.com. They are the official sponsors of Commander Ad Populum. They're based out of Winnipeg, Manitoba. They just had their Fusion 5K, they call it. And I follow them on Facebook. I wish I would have been there to jam some EDH with anybody who scrubbed out of the main event. But alas, it wasn't meant to be because I am going to Magic Fest Las Vegas in 2 days from now, so this is a little bit of a late recording for me, and I have to jam in a bunch of editing, a bunch of recording, a bunch of card alter commissions that I picked up, all kind of before I leave on Wednesday morning, when this episode normally would go live. So, busy couple days coming up, but it's all worth it, it's all good. And of course, you can check out all of Fusion Gaming's content on themanabase.com. That is their sponsored content site. There is articles and videos and, of course, Commander Ad Populum. Great place to be for Magic content. Moving into some other business, big thank you to new patron Philip Diechler. Diechler? I'm sure he's told me how to say it, and I'm sure I've just forgotten. But Philip, you know who you are. Welcome. Thank you. If anybody else out there wants to become a patron, patreon.com/CADPopcast. You can go there, check out the benefits, check out the Part 3, the newest installment of my altered art tutorial content there. It's actually really fun to do, and I just finished up the last portion of Part 3 a couple days ago. It's posted now on the Patreon site. It is free for everybody, but if you do have the means to throw a couple bucks my way per month, that's greatly appreciated. Keeps the channel chugging forward. And it does get you a shout out on the show and some other benefits. You can check it out all there. The different tiers get you different benefits. I'd very much like if anybody listening could go there and check it out. If that's not quite for you yet, you can also follow me on Twitter at CADPopcast and Facebook.com/CADPopcast. On both platforms, there is like a quick summary of Commander Ad Populum for each episode, and you can comment or give me ideas or your thoughts. And of course, at the end of each section, I'm going to start trying to call out people on in a good way, what they think or what they do specifically pertaining to each section of the show. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Today's community topic is going to be your own group's game night. Let's talk about that. See you in a minute. Okay, so your own group's game night. That is your own group of friends, your own family, whoever you play with on a very regular basis. Even if it is F&M, like the store that I frequent for my Friday Night Magic has recently seen an explosion in popularity for Commander. And the store I go to is in a mall. There is, of course, a food court, a dollar store, and a drugstore. And like you can go and buy chips and drinks and go to the food court. Lots of times people go there for supper, then come to the store like right at 6 or whatever when it starts. And of course, there is a bar in the mall as well. So sometimes when we're done, we go there for a drink. So it's a very social endeavor to go to Friday Night Magic. I'm lucky that my post office is actually in the same mall as well. I live out in the country, so it very much behooves me to have everything in one spot. My post office, my local game store, the dollar store where I pick up my envelopes and stuff. And of course, there is a grocery store in that mall as well. So it's all there, and that's very convenient for me. If you've got a super sweet kind of situation like that for playing in your F&M or your local game store, let me know at CADPopcast on Twitter. Lots of people just play at a brick and mortar standalone store though, and maybe there's not a whole bunch of food around. You got to bring your own. Or if you don't play in a store, maybe you just play at home with your friends and family. And that's kind of what I'm going to delve into a little bit more today is what does that look like for you? I'm actually interested because I play with the CCO Dude Bros, Brando and myself, and all of the guys that we shout out on Commander Cookout all the time. And depending on whose house we play at, sometimes it's about just playing Magic. Sometimes it's about the food. Sometimes it's about the drink. Sometimes it's about some combination of all three. Like when we play at Brando's house, we go there and we jam Magic, right? And we play Magic from about, 8:30 to maybe 1 in the morning. and that's on every Tuesday. If we go to Smitty's, he's got kind of a basement stereo system set up, and we just jam some kind 180 beats per minute dubstep, techno, whatever. It's not my jam really, but I actually like it when it's playing at Smitty's house because that's the environment that we've created. And that's the environment that we've fostered. That's what I like to do when I go there. He's got a bunch of bowls of chips on the table every time, and that's kind of where the Commander Cookout meme came from, the Planeswalker hiding behind the chip bowl, because all of a sudden somebody will ultimate a Planeswalker that somebody else couldn't have seen to attack because the chip bowl's sitting on it. It's lots of fun. We go to my buddy Jesse's house, and he always has like buffalo chicken wings or these little folded in half taco things that he gets from Costco. So when we go to Jesse's, he doesn't drink, so this is the same Jesse that was on the show a few weeks back. He doesn't drink, so he always offers copious amounts of food and Pepsi or Coke or water, whatever anybody wants. He's a very gracious host in that way because he doesn't partake in the drink. The opposite is true when anybody comes to my house. And again, I live out in the country, so people come to my house less frequently. I'll maybe have people over to play Magic at my own house, like maybe 3 times a year, or you know what I mean? Like a couple times a year plus Christmas, where it's more of a Christmas party than a Magic party, and we just drink and eat, and it's kind of like a potluck sort of, or maybe we'll have a barbecue. That's kind of how Commander Cookout even got like its ground roots built, is us doing this type of thing. You know, somebody will invite all of the Magic players over, and we'll all bring food or steak or chicken or whatever, drink, eat, and then we'll sit down with whatever it is, ice cream or chips, and then just play Magic all night. And for me, that's worked out in my favor because I've actually turned it into my livelihood. I've turned it into the thing that I do all the time, and it's because of this great environment that my friends over the last 10 years have fostered for me. They've supported me and encouraged me, and now look at me now, right? As far as any particular drinks go or food goes, like I said, Jesse is always a chicken wings and tacos kind of guy. Smitty's a chips kind of guy. When we come over to my house, I just kind of dig in the drawer, and whatever I have at the bar downstairs is kind of what we eat. If it's Christmas, we usually have like baking and chocolates or whatever. Munchie Mix, me and Brando have crushed tons of bags of Munchie Mix when we're doing videos for YouTube. I like to drink beer. My buddy Clayton likes to drink some form of rye or bourbon, and he's always down to try different mixes. You know, like he just got some peach Crown Royal, and I was raving about the salted caramel Crown Royal that I had last Christmas. So he's very much into that. And Clayton just started a little bit of a journey where he's trying to take a lot better care of himself, eating right and walking more and exercising, and he's lost a ton of weight, so congratulations to him, great job. And now, instead of like bringing 75 bags of chips to eat, he'll bring a tray of veggies and dip, that's what he'll have. And I very much appreciate kind of the shift in how we all kind of view it, right? We don't just show up to get hammered and stuff our faces at McDonald's after when we're, 3 a.m. in the bag. It's like, no, let's show up, let's socialize, have a good time with our friends, and eat some real actual human food like tacos and chicken wings and vegetables, right? And then let's safely drive home because we've either done the responsible thing and planned for a designated driver, or we don't drink so we can drive safely. Despite all the deer around my house, of course, like they're so stupid. They just run right out in front of your car, and then you just hit them, and they just like, they're so stupid. But other than that, we're all responsible, right? We all got kids and families and stuff now. So like nobody trashes anybody's house, and whenever anybody new comes over, we kind of vet them against our friends that invited them, right? Like, is he cool? Is he a zeeb? Is he a jerk? What kind of decks does he play? Does he drink? Does he not drink? We ask all those questions, right? Because you never know. But that's kind of how we do it. I play on Tuesdays and Fridays. I'm one of the lucky ones that does have, a yard work and responsibilities and a kid, and I still get to play both Tuesdays and Friday nights, and both offer a little bit of a different experience. One is food and drink and fun, and the other one is, socializing with strangers at the mall, and I usually just go to the dollar store and buy like a bottle of Diet Pepsi, and then I just play all night from like 6 till 9 or 9:30 when the store closes. So that's me. I'm interested in what everybody out there does. Not only in kind of where you play and what the dynamic is or what the social scene is, but do you have access to a food court or the mall or, the Chinese food place in the same like strip mall that your LGS is in? Do you drink? What do you drink? Do you eat? What do you suggest? I actually even like pairing my drinks to what kind of deck I'm playing. So if I got different kinds of beer, different kinds of drinks at my disposal at my own house, I'll kind of pick a deck and that's what I'll drink for the night. Do you know what I mean? So if you do something like that, let me know at CADPopcast on Twitter, or just comment on the Twitter thread for episode 17 or the Facebook thread for episode 17. I'd very much appreciate that. Next up, we're going to go straight into the set retrospective, just because reasons I'll tell you about when we get there. And I got to keep this show kind of a reasonable length because I do have to edit it in a rush. So we're going to go right into the set retrospective for Tempest. I'll see you guys in a sec. Okay, Tempest. This is a very cool set, both thematically or story-wise and technically based on the cards that are in the set. Maybe that's because this is the first set since like Legends that the original designer of the game, Richard Garfield, was back involved in like on the design team. Maybe just because it was cool, maybe because I liked the story, or maybe because you know what they did? Like, used to buy like 60 card starter decks with Magic or tournament packs, and you'd open them up, you'd open up the product, and in the box there was like a rules insert or like a rule book. It was like 30 or 40 pages, pretty comprehensive as far as rules go, because remember, the internet didn't exist and people had to play. People had to learn how to play, right? So Tempest is the first time in Magic history that instead of that full 30 or 40 page rulebook or 50 page rulebook, whatever it was, you still got a rulebook, but it was boiled down to like the very bare essentials of how to play Magic, right? And the rest of the rulebook, like the back half of it, was all about the story of Tempest, like the Weatherlight crew, Gerard and Cissé and Grevenil Vec and all these good guys versus bad guys flying into Wrath. That's the plane, the artificial plane that the story now takes place on. And because they did that, I think Wizards built like a very, they started to get players more invested in the story and the characters, and they made them feel things that they weren't previously feeling. So from a marketing standpoint, very awesome, because we've already been following these characters for like a couple years now, at least since the beginning of the Mirage block, right? Now it's Tempest. This is October of 97. So it's been about a year that we've already been introduced to these characters. Now we're really getting invested in them. They're traveling through Wrath to find the Wrathy stronghold where the big bad guy Volrath is. And spoiler alert, like the next set is called Stronghold because they find it, and then the following set is Exodus. That's the Tempest block. They're trying to escape Wrath, right? The same crew. And then when they escape, they go to Marcadia. Same crew. So you can see how they're building like a very long form dialogue story with all these characters. And that's why Magic players of my vintage, or maybe just a little bit older or newer, are very invested in Captain Cissé and Tongarth, Gerard, the Weatherlight. And when we went to Dominaria, we got all those characters again. And Commander 19 that is just coming out, we're getting all these characters redone with like modern mechanics. So it's very exciting. This is kind of where it all started. So let's get into it. Like I said, October 97. This is the 97 like big fall set. And when I say big set, Tempest had 350 cards in it. To my knowledge, that is the most cards we've had in a set so far, in a block set. And because they had so many cards in it, they packed a whole ton of things into it. Many, many, many cycles, which we already know from previous set retros that players like. They like one effect in each color and they all match. So they did that a bunch of times. They had a bunch of slivers. They previewed some new creature types like spikes and enchantment types called Lycids, and like a lot of that isn't very relative for EDH, but it's a recurring theme that we're going to see over the next 3 or 4 years, and Tempest was instrumental in setting all of that up. That all being said, there was some very excellent cards for Commander in the Tempest set and block. So before we get into any card by card stuff, let's talk a little bit about those cycles and some of the stuff that was introduced. So this is the first time we've ever seen the ability on a creature, or the ability Shadow. So Shadow was an ability. At the time, only creatures had it. And a creature with Shadow can only be blocked by other creatures with Shadow. So if you're a creature and you exist in the Shadow, you can't be blocked unless the opponent also has a creature with Shadow. And a Shadow creature can't block anything except for other Shadow creatures. So Shadow on Shadow is like normal game of Magic. Shadow versus non-Shadow is some strange juxtaposition where nobody can block anybody. So it's kind of a cool thing. Buyback was introduced in Tempest as well. And Buyback, probably the most famous card ever, was Capsize. We'll be talking about that, I'm sure. Essentially, when you cast it, you can pay an additional cost, and instead of putting the card into your graveyard, you put it back into your hand. Mostly they were overcosted, and the buyback cost was pretty high, but some of them the effect is very worth it. So, pretty cool. Shadow didn't exist in every color, buyback did. There was other things kind of supplementing other colors that Shadow wasn't in, things like Flowstone, and that's another one of those things that we're going to see over the next couple years worth of Magic. The Flowstone mechanic was like kind of like fire breathing, where you pay a red into it. Flowstone was in red. Pay a red into the creature that has the Flowstone ability, and it'll get +1, -1. So you could pump something up really big on the front end, but you make it very weak. And Flowstone in the story was like the material that Wrath was made out of. The Stronghold produces Flowstone, and they make Flowstone sculptures the same exact shape that things are on Dominaria, so they can lay over each other perfectly, and they can like transfer parts of Wrath onto Dominaria. Probably a little bit more flavory than I want to go into here when we're talking about cards, but I just like it because this is kind of getting into the time where I was first starting to get heavy into Magic, learning to play, getting invested in the story, so it's exciting to me. We had a lot of color hoser things. Again, they had 350 cards in this set, so they could print like creatures and enchantments that had protection and destroy different colored things like their opposite color. Like I mentioned, slivers, common, uncommon, rare slivers. They had the medallions, hugely popular in Commander. We'll talk about those when we hit individual cards. Gold cards, legendary creatures, and interesting, enemy color pain lands, but not the ones you're thinking. Enemy colored pain lands, if you do need another budget option, we'll talk about those at the end of the set retro when we finish up with lands. So let's look at some legendary creatures from Tempest. We've got 6 total. Some good, they range from good to like really bad. So, I don't know, let's just do them in alphabetical. Commander Greven Ilvek. So Ilvek, that was a way that, that was kind of like the naming convention for people on Wrath. And he is a 7/5 for black, 3. When he enters a battlefield, sack a creature. So he comes in and just like kills one of your own guys. So he's a badass, right? He can't be blocked except by artifact creatures and black creatures. Then that's what it was called. That was like shortcutted as Fear before Fear was a thing. Now that's Intimidate because he is black and can only be blocked by black and artifact creatures. So 7/5 for 6, sack a dude, and he has Intimidate. I don't know, he's not that great. Next up, Eladamri, Lord of Leaves. Prolific story character, both of these people so far. Actually, all of the legends in this set are. Eladamri is a 2/2 elf for green. Elves you control have Forest Walk, and elves you control can't be the target of spells or abilities. So Forest Walk and Shroud on your elves. That's fine. Like it goes in elf decks, right? That's actually good. I like it. Cool art on it too. Next up, Aurum, Samite Healer, a 1/3 for white 1. She's a cleric something. Human cleric probably. I don't know. I'm not reading the errata text. I'm reading just the card. You can tap her to prevent 3 damage to any creature or player. I'm sure that's target creature or player now, so you probably can't prevent planeswalkers. Let's look at the errata. Actually, the errata, tap, prevent the next 3 damage that would be dealt to any target this turn. Huh. So as long as you can target your planeswalkers, you could prevent damage to them. That's probably fine. Next up, this is kind of a combo card, sort of. It's a 3/3 for white, black, 3, Selenia Dark Angel. So she's a white-black angel. That's cool. She got flying. You can pay 2 life and return Selenia to owner's hand. And this is a combo enabler because you can pay 2 life and put the ability to return her on the stack, and then you can pay it again. So you have 2 instances of return on the stack, and then pay it again, pay it again, pay it again, and every time you go down 2 life. So if there's some scenario, maybe like what I was talking about last week, where you want to go down in life, this could be the commander that does it for you. So that's pretty cool. Next up, Stark of Wrath. Stark of Wrath, was he born there? I don't actually know. I don't know. He's of there, so he must be. So he's a 2/2 for red, 1. You can tap him to destroy target artifact or creature. That permanent's controller gains control of Stark of Wrath. So kill something, then give him away. Then somebody else can kill something, give him away. This is kind of a cool, chaosy type thing. I've seen him before in maybe like Zedru decks, right? Where you kill something, then give it away, and then Zedru lets you draw an extra card and gain a life, or whatever Zedru does. So he's cool. I've seen him before. Last up, Vati Ildal. So that's another one of those weird kind of naming conventions of the people that are from Wrath. So he's a 3/3 for green, black 2, and he taps to make target creature's power or toughness 1 until end of turn. So that's pretty cool. I've seen him with like Pestilence before. He's probably going to go in that new troll guy from Commander 19, where you're going to play your Pestilence anyway, and you can just tap to make a creature 1 toughness and Pestilence away, and then your troll guy will get bigger. So that's a pretty cool card. Not very powerful, like Commander Griven Elvek, not very powerful. Or Samite Healer, not very powerful, but they weren't designing for Commander at this point. If you see these cards, it's probably because somebody wants to build like a character theme deck, or they're using their ability in some way that it wasn't designed. Like Selenia, you're using her just to pay all your life, or Stark of Wrath, you're using him to benefit in the 99 with something like a Zedru deck. So lots of fun there. Card by card discussion. Look at this. We're going to start out with like one of the scourges of Modern to go along with Hogak, Altar of Dementia, 2 mana artifact, sack a creature. Target player puts the number of cards equal to that creature's power into their graveyard. So with Hogak, you just cast them from your graveyard every time you mill 8. So that's pretty sweet. That's going to my Hogak deck. Allurin is another one. Green 2 for an enchantment. Any player can play 3-drop creatures as though they had flash. So any player can just flash in their 3-drops, 2-drops, 1-drops. That is the combo card of the century. There is very few ways to play that card in a fair way. Goes right along with your Ancient Tomb, which taps to give you 2 colorless mana and deals 2 damage to you. So that is one powerful card. That sees play across the board. Jank, EDH, CEDH. There's a gold-bordered World Champ deck version of it that's super cheap that I've seen people run because it's kind of expensive. And man, there are a ton of cards in this list. Or in this set, sorry. Going down the list here. Capsize, there it is. Instant for blue 1. Buyback of 3. So 6 mana total investment to return target permanent to its owner's hand. And what that means is you can just bounce something of your opponent's and have your Capsize back to do it again. And this is extremely powerful in Commander because you can bounce a tricky thing whenever you have 6 mana available. Or if you make infinite mana, as blue players are wont to do, you can bounce literally everything on the table because it's target permanent. You can get a land. You could get, you could tap your Gaia's Cradle, for instance, too. You could do this. You could go Gaia's Cradle for 10 mana, make 2 blue, Capsize, still have 6 mana, 6 green left over. You could Capsize your Cradle with the buyback, and then play your Gaia's Cradle again and make 10 mana again. This card is crazy. Back to back, here's two from a cycle that kind of speak to old school Magic design in Chill and Choke. Chill is an enchantment for 1 and a blue. Red spells cost an additional 2 to cast. And Choke is islands do not untap during their controller's untap step. So they're hosing things on the opposite side of the color pie. They don't really do that anymore, but those are 2 examples of just things that I know have seen play in Magic of old because they just shut off certain strategies, right? got a ton of slivers. We've got Counterspell in this set. We've got Dark Ritual, Corpse Dance, Dark Banishing. These were all popular like in Standard and Extended at the time. They haven't made such a huge splash in EDH, but I know like Dark Ritual, of course, goes in combo decks. This Death Pits of Wrath, this is a nasty little control card as well. I've seen this card played to great effect. It's an enchantment for black 3. Whenever a creature is dealt damage, destroy it. It can't be regenerated. Holy crap, holy. We've got Dismiss, blue 2, counter target spell, draw a card. Wow, that is cool. We've got this. I've got one here in front of me. This is a little bit of a hidden gem, maybe. This is the first ever pre-release promo card in Dirt Cowl Worm. Great name, first of all. It's a 3/4 for green 4. Whenever an opponent plays a land, put a +1/+1 counter on Dirt Cowl Worm. So opponent's landfall, he gets bigger. Does this go in like just like green big dumb idiot deck? I think it might. Dread of Night, enchantment for black. All white creatures get -1/-1. There's another one of those haters. Dregs of Sorrow. This was in Commander 2014, so this is actually seen play in Commander if you've ever played the mono black deck from 2014. It's a sorcery for black 4X. Destroy X target non-black creatures. Draw X cards. Holy! So that's pretty cool. Another combo machine right here. Earthcraft. Another enchantment. Tap an untapped creature you control, untap target basic land. So this comboed with like Squirrel Nest, or this combos with an island and like a Shrieking Drake that returns itself to its owner's hand. So you just put the Shrieking Drake, bounce a creature, trigger on the stack, and then you tap the Shrieking Drake in response to bouncing itself, and Earthcraft will untap your island for you, and then you can cast your Shrieking Drake again. So you have infinite enter the battlefield triggers if you have something that triggers on ETB. So I play that in my Animar deck. I've seen that in other teamer decks with like Perforos or whatever. So that's a thing. Our first medallion, there was 5 of these. There's one for each color, and they are 2 mana artifacts that say your whatever spells cost 1 less to cast. So Emerald Medallion is the one for green, Sapphire is the one for blue, Ruby is the one for red, Jet Medallion is the black one, and Pearl Medallion is the white one. So there's 1 in each color. They make your spells cost less. Super awesome cards. Those are staples. I think they were in the Commander 2014 as well, in those monocolored decks. We've got some EDH kind of staples here in Gravedigger and Harrow. Those were in Tempest. Again, 350 cards. They can put tons of stuff in here. I'm looking at a very powerful card called Intuition. Instant for blue 2, search your library for 3 cards and reveal them. Your opponent puts 1 into your hand and the other 2 into your graveyard. So you used to be able to just like search for 3 of the same card and you always get what you want. Now you have to search for either, in Commander, you search for things that give you redundant effects, or you search for the card you want and then like 2 regrowth style effects that let you get the card back if they put that one into your graveyard. So that is a very, very, very powerful card. Going down the list, we've got a couple mana rocks and dorks here. We've got a Mannequin, which is a 2-drop 1/1, and you just tap it to add a colorless to your mana pool. That sees play in some artifact-based kind of combo-y decks. And we've got a Lotus Petal that's a 0-drop that you sack for a mana. That is a very powerful card. I'm just going down the list here for things that are very pertinent to Commander, because I recognize a ton of them, but I'm not sure that they're going to be very Commander playable. Here, let's talk about it now. We have got a cycle of enemy-colored, what do I call them, pain lands? I'm looking at Pine Barrens. So this is, it adds a colorless to your mana pool, or you can tap it for a black and a green, and it deals 1 damage to you. So that sounds a lot like Llanowar Wastes, which is the updated version of these that were printed in Apocalypse in like 2001. These ones come into play tapped. So they enter the battlefield, they're tapped, so they're like slow pain lands. But again, being so cheap, if you were building a budget mana base, you could play these instead of the traditional pain lands or duels or shocks or fetches or whatever. You could play those. They're just a come into play tapped land that gives you both of your colors, or a colorless if you don't need it. Look at this. Original printing of Propaganda was in Tempest. It's another enchantment. Blue 2. Players have to pay an additional 2 per creature if they want to attack you. We've got Reanimate in this one. This is like the flagship well, Reanimate. It's the name of the archetype because it costs just black. Put a creature card from any graveyard onto the battlefield under your control, then you lose life equal to its converted mana cost. That card has won more games of Magic than maybe any other card in Tempest, just because it sees play in like Standard at the time, Extended, Legacy now. That is a card right there. I like Hidden Gem right here, Reap. Instant, return any number of target cards from your graveyard to your hand. You can't choose more targets than the number of black permanents your opponents control. So if somebody's playing mono black and they have like 5 or 6 things, 2 mana at instant speed just gets you 5 or 6 things back from your graveyard. Very cool card. We've got $60, $65 Scroll Rack in this deck. This is essentially, you pay 1 and tap it, and you just like take X number of cards from your hand and switch them with the top X cards of your library. You switch your hand in the top of your library, so you can hide cards, you can see lots of cards deep, that's a very powerful card right there. Lots of little creatures in this. That's why I think that it's not a very, I don't want to say it's not a very commander heavy set, but what I mean is there's not a whole ton of creatures that see play in commander. And of course, that's changed with modern philosophy favoring bigger, more efficient creatures now than they used to. But I think also the story depicted or had this kind of barren wasteland plain that had like these slaves working on it. So they're not going to be like big creatures. They're going to be just like little artifact guys or 1/1s or 2/2s, right? They're not going to be anything crazy big just based on the story. Unless you had like a bunch of slivers that all pump each other. Last couple I want to talk about. First printing ever of Time Warp was in Tempest. That is a sorcery. Target player takes an extra turn for blue 3. That is one of them though, that if you get misdirected or swerved or whatever, target player, you can lose your extra turn and somebody else can get it if they can change the target. So we've got awesome card in here. Wasteland. Taps for colorless or tap sack it, destroy target non-basic land. That is a commander staple, I think. We've got Voltron staple as well. Winds of Wrath. White 3. Destroy all creatures with no enchantments on them. So if you just got a Voltroned up commander that's got an enchantment, you can just kill everything else because not very many people play like auras or enchant creatures. So final one here. We've got an instant called Whispers of the Muse. So this is draw a card for blue. Seems fairly efficient when I said, buyback cards are kind of overcosted. This one just costs blue to draw a card. Sure, fine. Buyback of 5. But if you have infinite mana, it functions just like a Blue Sun Zenith where you want to draw your whole deck. So you could do that with Whispers of the Muse. So that's pretty cool. Maybe you have like infinite cast triggers or something, whatever. Maybe you just draw your whole deck and win because you have some other combo in your deck. That's a pretty cool card. I think it was time shifted in Time Spiral as well. So that was in Standard in 2006 or 7 or whenever that was. So that's Tempest. I went through a lot of cards real quick there. I hope I gave everybody kind of the framework of what the set felt like. Lots of small dudes, lots of very powerful enchantments, lots of story ties in the art and in the flavor of the cards, in the flavor text. If this was right around when you started playing, I hope that it kind of tickles you as much as it does me because we're just starting to get into the golden era of Magic for me in that, the Weatherlight Crew, the Invasion coming up, Tempest, Masks, Invasion blocks, and then Odyssey block directly after. So I hope everybody's going to enjoy all of that coming up over the next, 10 or 12 weeks. It's going to take us that long to get through that, but everything is kind of going to be tied together from here on out. So that's very exciting. If you want to let me know about your Tempest Hidden Gems at CADPopcast on Twitter, or just comment on the episode 17 thread on Facebook, facebook.com/CADPopcast. If you would like to support the show in any way, you can get a hold of me on any of those channels for an altered art card commission. You can head over to patreon.com/CADPopcast. You can search me up there and become a patron there. There's great benefits for you. There's free altered art tutorial content there now as well. Big thank you to all the patrons. Big thank you to all the other listeners as well. Everybody listening does really make the world go around for me, so I very much appreciate that. And finally, big thanks to FusionGamingOnline.com for all of your Tempest needs, I guess, today. Go out and buy your Furnace of Wrath and your Ghost Town and your Goblin Bombardment. There's another one right there. So big thanks to Fusion Games. Couldn't do it without them. Okay, everybody, I will see you in Vegas in a couple days or in a day. I will see everybody else next Wednesday.